Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Joining me in studio now is Leanne McAdoo. We're going to talk about the Democrat debate. You may or may not have realized that there was one on Saturday. Of course, Leanne, it was by design.
Yeah.
The very last Saturday before Christmas. And of course, there were, if you weren't out shopping, if you were watching ball games, you probably didn't know or care about this Democrat debate. That was by design.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there was an article that came out talking about, and it was linked on the Drudge Report, Hillary Clinton and the awful risk of winning ugly. That's what they were talking about in this article. And they're not talking about the way she dressed, because I tweeted this out with this outfit that she had when she came back, because, you know, she took a bathroom break and then she comes back, she throws her hands up in the air like, so what? I was over a minute late coming back from break. And I said, you know, she's got a bold new look, kind of moving away from that pink polyester pantsuit look she had. This is kind of a cross between a burlap hijab and a Chairman Mao look, you know, but
Yeah.
It's really the arrogance that's there. Okay. And it's really the arrogance in the way that she's colluded with Debbie Wasserman Schill in terms of setting up the DNC
Right.
as her own private organization. And this is something that I think could very easily fracture the Democrat Party. Bernie Sanders could and should run as a third party. He can run very comfortably with the Green Party. He's always declared himself as an independent socialist. He ought to run as a third party.
Right. Well, and that's what I suggested as well. But, you know, if you didn't tune into the Democratic debate, you really didn't miss much, because it was more of the same. These debates are an opportunity for the candidates to show how they're different. But it's just, it was another love fest where they're all just agreeing with each other and apologizing. And, oh, first, let me take this opportunity to say what a great First Lady Clinton was and how she just redesigned the whole role. And
Bernie Sanders just totally laid down. I mean, it looked like things were going to be really hot.
Right.
On Friday, his campaign manager got up. He was visibly shaking. He was so angry because they had shut down their access to the voter information.
Right.
And that was key for the Sanders campaign. They've gotten a record number of individual contributors, breaking Barack Obama's record number of individual contributors. But of course, all she really needs are a few Wall Street brokers, a few military industrial complex people to just wipe out all of that. And it doesn't really matter what they do in the primaries and the caucuses, because she's got the DNC tied up with the superdelegates.
Right. And this was a great opportunity for Sanders to point that out. But he really just kind of handed it over to her. He apologized for that within the first 10 minutes. I mean, it's not as if they breached the wall. The firewall was down. And so this hopefully is going to give voters kind of a peek behind the curtain there at the DNC to see how they really are all in for Clinton. They've repeatedly ignored numerous controversies surrounding Hillary Clinton. But here with this, they made a huge deal of it, leaked some information to the press immediately.
Exactly. So, as they point out in this article, they said, you know, this would not have happened without the approval of the Clinton surrogate, you know, and without the approval of Hillary Clinton as well. And of course, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, or Schill, however you want to pronounce her last name, she was a campaign manager for Clinton back in 2008. She's still her campaign manager, but she's in charge of the DNC. And it was absolutely amazing to me to watch him just roll over and die, as he did when those Black Lives Matter people took over his stage. I mean, he has a legitimate right to stand there and say, look, you want a forum, I'm not cutting down on your freedom of speech, but I have set this time and place up. I have this opportunity here to talk to people. Do it somewhere else, you know, do it on your own time. But that's the key, and that's what they're talking about here. If she wants to ram this down, the sizable number of people who are supporting Bernie Sanders, if she wants to ram it down their throat, at the very least, they're not going to be enthusiastic Clinton voters.
Right. Well, and the DNC stepped away from that tactic because they saw that it was obviously riling up the base, but not in their favor. It was making
the base
Clinton
energized
look petty,
in a different way.
And it was pointing out that, you know, Debbie Wasserman Schultz completely has ignored all of the controversy surrounding Clinton. So that was one of the big things. Obviously, everyone went after Trump. O'Malley called him a fascist. And then Clinton goes after him, basically saying that Trump is becoming ISIS's best recruiter. She talks about how they're going to people showing videos of Donald Trump insulting Islam and Muslims in order to recruit more radical jihadists. Well, obviously, she makes this argument. It's fact-checked. There is no video that exists. But what does exist is an ISIS recruitment video featuring Bill Clinton. So, of course,
Oops.
this surfaces, right? This was a 4-minute video released last month entitled No Respite, and it includes an image of Bill Clinton, and they call him a fornicator. And obviously that's in reference to his affair with Monica Lewinsky and others. But it also features President Obama and former President George W. Bush. They're called liars and basically making fun of the high-quality U.S. military that's ineffectual against Muslim countries. So she does this with Trump, and it's actually her husband that's being used to recruit jihadists.
Quite frankly, no matter what you say or do, there's nothing you could do to recruit more people for ISIS than to indiscriminately bomb civilian meetings, weddings and funerals and so forth and so on, and pretend at the same time, tell everybody that you have this super high-tech capability of pinpoint accuracy. What you're telling people then is you're doing it deliberately, and maybe they are, because we saw them deliberately target a Doctors Without Borders hospital in Afghanistan, attack it for 30 minutes, even though it was a well-known, well-publicized location. They had notified the Pentagon as well as the Afghan government numerous times. They continued that attack for 30 minutes. There's video of them shooting people running from the hospital, doctors and nurses and patients running from the hospital, targeting them with a machine gun fire. The same type of thing that we saw leaked by Manning in terms of, so this is an ongoing policy. That's what recruits people for ISIS. And of course, they're equipped by Hillary Clinton through the Benghazi types of events.
Right. Well, and we know also too, International Business Times reported how the Clinton Foundation and her State Department, they approved nearly double the amount of arms sales to those same 20 countries, more than double what President George W. Bush. And of course, there's the weapons deal controversies there with her State Department role, foreign donations from Saudi Arabia. So, I mean, she says that she's tough on guns. Meanwhile, she's approving all of these billion-dollar arms deals. So, you know, just a huge hypocrite.
That's the most amazing thing is how they continue to ignore the elephant in the room, the most obvious thing in the room, just as Alex Jones just talked about in the last segment, that Seymour Hersh is now pointing out that there's this internecine fighting going on within the military, within the intelligence communities, because they know what we've been reporting for a very long time, that this is a deliberate arming and creation of these jihadi surrogates. And that's something that CIA has been doing for a very long time, but it's never been more obvious. But everybody ignores it in the mainstream press. They ignore it in the debates. They, whether it's Democrat or Republican, they ignore it. Right.
And they can say one thing, and if you don't go after them and fact check them or do some additional research, you might just take them at their word. And so President Obama did a radio interview talking about how Trump was, people were basically supporting Trump because they didn't like the fact that there was a black president. You know, meanwhile,
trying to make it racist.
One of the top Republican candidates is a black man, Ben Carson. So obviously they don't have an issue with having another black president. You know, but there's just other things as well.
Yeah, the only reason that we would be concerned about people coming from a war-torn area that's being controlled by radical jihadis, the only reason we would have a problem with it is because we're racist.
Right.
And of course, Islam is not a race.
And also talking about how they're just wanting to exploit fears of blue-collar workers as well, and that's what's riling up Trump supporters when this omnibus bill that was a largely Democrat Christmas present is what is truly threatening blue-collar workers and what they really should be afraid of, and that's not a threat. It's something that is now signed in. It's going to almost quadruple the amount of H-2B worker visas, which are going to be people specifically coming for blue-collar jobs.
As I mentioned in the first segment, Obama is very aware of how his policies have devastated that segment. And of course, all this is about creating voter blocks. And he's very worried that these blue-collar Democrats are going to become Trump Democrats like they became Reagan Democrats. And that's the true fear here.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, that Trump is creating fear. No, Obama is afraid of the blowback of his policies here in America with that particular demographic.
Right. And I also thought it was very telling when they asked Hillary Clinton, should corporate America like Hillary Clinton? And she said, everybody should. So that was just very telling. Obviously, she's going to say that she's going to fight against Wall Street, you know, fight for the middle class and all that. But then she kind of winks and nods to the corporations and Wall Street. Everyone's going to like a Clinton president.
Well, the arrogance and the criminality of Hillary Clinton is just incredibly obvious. That's what this article from The Week that Drudge linked to is talking about when it says winning ugly. We're not talking about her appearance, but of course, when we come back from the break, we're going to have some people who do make fun of her appearance, make fun of her policies, make fun of her long criminal history. We're going to show you some of the entries from the Alex Jones Hillary contest. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
And why wearing a Hillary for President t-shirt might get you punched in the face.
They thought it said Hillary for President. He said, I was seconds away from sending my bar back over here to punch you in the face. Since you're wearing a Hillary for Prison shirt, you don't have to buy drinks here. Everything's on the house.
Hillary for President! Hillary's not surging, I tell you that. They're not saying that. They're not saying, thank you.
There you have it. Donald Trump endorses Hillary for Prison. Get your Hillary for Prison 2016 t-shirt at the Infowars store. And on the back, it says, legalize freedom. Show your disapproval of Hillary by buying your t-shirt today.
But what she's done is criminal.
This is an American president. Just add puppet, then vote and repeat every 4 years.